You are standing in the desert, in front of a structure made from over 2 million stones, each one heavier than a car, stacked with a precision we still struggle to replicate today. And somehow, it was built without machines. You arrive quietly, as if carried by the wind itself. The desert stretches endlessly around you, a soft ocean of sand glowing faintly beneath the night sky. The air is cool now, the heat of the day gently fading into memory. Somewhere in the distance, a breeze moves across the dunes, whispering in a language older than words. And above you, the sky, endless, dark, filled with stars that seem impossibly still. For a moment, everything feels suspended, as if time has slowed just enough for you to notice it. And then, you see them, rising from the earth like something that does not quite belong to it. The pyramids, silent, unmoving, unimaginably precise. You walk a little closer, not in a rush, but with a quiet curiosity. The surface of the stones catches the faint starlight, each block resting perfectly upon another, as if they had always been there, as if they had simply grown from the ground. But they did not. Each of these stones was placed here, one by one, lifted, moved, aligned, without cranes, without engines, without the machines we rely on today. And somehow, they remain. It's easy at first to let the mind jump toward quick answers, to imagine lost technologies or forgotten tools or something almost magical. But tonight, we won't rush. We won't chase the mystery as something to solve all at once. Instead, we'll slow down. We'll move gently through the questions, the same way the ancient builders may have moved each stone, with patience, with rhythm, with time, because the story of the pyramids is not just about how they were built. It is about how human hands, guided by simple tools, careful observation, and quiet persistence, were able to shape something that could outlast centuries, something that could outlast empires. And as you continue to listen, you may begin to notice something else, that the deeper you go, the less this feels like a mystery to conquer, and more like something to sit beside, like the desert itself, unhurried, endless, calm. So let your thoughts slow down now, just as the wind slows across the sand. And if you find this quiet journey comforting, you can gently like the video or subscribe, so there will always be another place to return to when the world feels a little too fast. For now, just stay here, under the stars, beside the stones, and let the story unfold. You stand at the base of the pyramid now, close enough to see what it is truly made of. Not a smooth surface, not a single structure, but countless individual stones, each one resting upon another in quiet cooperation. From a distance, it looks simple. From here, it becomes something else entirely. A single block sits before you, rough, solid, unmoving. You reach out, almost instinctively, and imagine placing your hand against it. It is larger than you expected, taller than your waist, wider than your arms could comfortably wrap around, and heavier, far heavier. Most of these stones weigh somewhere between 2 to 15 tons, which means even the smaller ones weigh as much as a car, and some much more. Now imagine this. Not one stone, not 10, but over 2 million. Each one cut, moved, and placed with intention. 2 million moments of effort. 2 million decisions. 2 million acts of alignment. It's difficult for the mind to hold that number all at once. So instead, let's slow it down. Imagine lifting just one of these stones. Even with modern tools, It requires planning, machinery, precision. Now imagine doing it without engines, without steel cranes, without anything powered by electricity. Just human hands, rope, wood, and time. Now imagine doing it again, and again, and again, until repetition itself becomes something almost invisible, like breathing. You take a step back, just a few paces, and tilt your head upward. The pyramid rises, not sharply, but steadily. A slope that seems gentle at first, until your eyes continue to follow it, higher and higher and higher. Originally, the Great Pyramid stood at around 146 meters tall. To put that into something more familiar, that's roughly the height of a modern 4-5-story building. But, unlike a building made of glass and steel, this structure is made almost entirely of stone, solid, dense, unforgiving. No internal skeleton holding it up. No reinforced framework. Just weight, balanced upon weight. You try to imagine stacking something that tall, using nothing but stone blocks and careful placement. And yet, here it stands. You shift your gaze outward, walking slowly along the base. The ground stretches far in every direction. Each side of the pyramid spans over 230 meters, which means if you were to walk from one corner to another, it would take time. Not long, but long enough for your steps to settle into a rhythm. It is not just tall, it is wide, expansive, present. It occupies space in a way that feels deliberate, almost calm in its certainty. And there is something else, something quieter, but just as important. The precision. As you move along the edge, you begin to notice how straight the lines are, how the corners meet with intention, how the base feels grounded. This is not a pile of stones. This is structure, measured, aligned, carefully arranged. Even now, thousands of years later, the foundation remains remarkably level. Not perfect, perhaps, but close enough to make you pause, because achieving that level of flatness across such a massive area without modern instruments is not something that happens by accident. It requires awareness, observation, patience. You begin to realize that the scale of the pyramid is not just about size. It is about consistency, the ability to repeat something accurately over and over again across years, maybe decades, without losing alignment, without drifting into error. It is one thing to place a single stone correctly. It is another to do it 2 million times. You look back at the stones again, each one slightly different, each one shaped by hand, and yet, together, they form something unified. There is no rush in their placement, no visible urgency, only a steady accumulation of effort layered upon effort until the structure becomes inevitable. And perhaps that is what feels most difficult to understand. Not just the weight, not just the height, but the persistence, the quiet willingness to continue, to return each day, to lift, to move, to place, knowing that the full shape may not be seen for years. In the modern world, we are used to speed. We measure progress in hours, days, weeks. But here, progress was measured in something else entirely. In seasons, in cycles, in lifetimes. And as you stand beside the pyramid, feeling its presence not as something distant, but something real, something built, you begin to sense that the true scale is not just physical. It is temporal, a structure made not only of stone, but of time itself. layered slowly, patiently, until it became what you see now. You take one last look upward. The top feels impossibly far away, almost softened by the darkness of the night sky. And yet, it is there, placed, reached, completed, not in a single moment, but through countless small ones. And as your thoughts begin to settle, as the vastness becomes something you no longer try to hold all at once, but instead, something you simply observe, a quieter question begins to form, not rushed, not urgent, just gently waiting. Because before we can understand how something like this was built, before we begin to trace the movement, the lifting, the shaping, we must first sit with what it is. The scale, the weight, the presence, and allow it to be felt fully and without hurry. Before we ask how, we must first understand what. You remain beside the pyramid, but now, instead of looking upward, your attention begins to drift outward, because every stone you see here once belonged somewhere else. It did not begin as part of this structure. It did not emerge from the desert in this form. Each block had a beginning, and that beginning was far away. Some of the stones came from nearby, just beyond the plateau of Giza itself. Limestone, cut from the very ground beneath your feet. If you look closely, you can almost imagine it. Workers carving into the earth, slowly separating blocks from bedrock. Not with machines, but with simple tools and repeated motion. The sound would not have been loud. No roaring engines. No sharp bursts of energy. Just a steady rhythm of impact and pause. Impact and pause. Over time, the earth would yield, and the stones would begin their journey. These local limestone blocks form the core of the pyramid. Rougher, heavier, less polished, but strong. They did not travel far, and yet, even a short distance becomes something significant when the weight is measured in tons. Now imagine this: a single block resting on a wooden sled, dozens of people gathered around it, ropes pulled tight, and then movement. Slow at first, almost hesitant, but then steady. Across the sand, across the open ground, every meter earned, not given. Even for stones that came from nearby, the journey was not simple. But not all stones were local. Some came from much farther away, and these are the ones that begin to stretch the imagination. Far to the south of Giza, more than 800 kilometers away, lies a place known as Aswan, a landscape marked by massive outcrops of granite, harder than limestone, denser, more difficult to shape, and yet this is where some of the most important stones were cut. The inner chambers of the pyramid, the structures meant to endure, to protect, were built using granite from Aswan, which means these stones, some weighing over 50 tons, were not only cut but transported across hundreds of kilometers. Pause with that for a moment. Not moved across a city, not delivered by truck or rail, but guided, slowly, across a vast landscape. In a time before engines, before roads, before wheels were widely used for heavy loads. So how did they travel? Close your eyes, just for a moment, and imagine the Nile. Wide, calm, flowing gently through the land. This river was not just water, it was a pathway. During certain seasons, when the Nile rose, it became possible to float heavy stones on large barges. You can imagine it now, a massive block of granite, carefully loaded onto a wooden platform, balanced, secured, and then carried by water, drifting northward, slowly, guided not by force, but by the current. Days passing, nights falling, the stars above reflecting softly on the surface of the river. The journey would have taken time, not rushed, not forced, just continuous. Eventually, the stones would arrive near Giza. But even then, the journey was not over. From the riverbank, they still had to be moved inland, back onto sledges, back onto sand, pulled once again, step by step, toward the construction site. And as you picture this, the full journey begins to take shape. From quarry, to river, to desert, to pyramid. A chain of movement, repeated again and again, until distance itself became part of the process. What feels remarkable is not just the distance, but the coordination, the planning required to ensure that stones arrived when needed, that workers were ready, that the rhythm of transport matched the rhythm of construction. Nothing could be rushed. Everything had to align. And yet, it did. You return your gaze to the pyramid, seeing it differently now, not just as a structure built in one place, but as a gathering, a convergence of landscapes, stone from nearby earth, and stone from distant quarries, brought together with intention, placed with care, each block carrying with it not just weight, but a story of movement, a story of distance, slowly crossed. And perhaps, as you let this settle, you begin to notice something calming in it. The idea that even something vast, something that feels almost impossible, is not created all at once, but piece by piece, step by step. From here, the question shifts again, because now we understand where the stones came from. We can see their origins. We can trace their path. But something still remains, quiet and unanswered. How did they move them once they began to travel? Now that you can see the journey of the stones, from quarry to river to desert, a quieter question begins to take shape. Not where they came from, but how they moved. Because distance alone is not the challenge. Movement is. You return your attention to the ground beneath your feet. The sand feels soft, loose. It shifts slightly with each step, offering just enough resistance to remind you that nothing moves here without effort. Now imagine placing a massive stone on top of this surface. Not a small rock, but something weighing several tons. If you tried to push it directly, it would sink, grip the sand, refuse to move. So instead, the ancient builders used something simple. A sled, not a wheel, not a rolling device, just a flat wooden platform designed to carry weight across the ground. You can picture it now, a large block resting securely on top of thick wooden runners, ropes attached at the front, workers standing in rows, preparing to pull. And then, slowly, they begin. The first movement is always the hardest. A pause, a tightening of the rope, and then a shift, just enough to break the stillness. Once the sled begins to move, it continues, slowly, steadily, across the sand. But even with a sled, the resistance remains. The friction between wood and sand still demands effort. And this is where something subtle, something almost quiet, begins to matter. Water. It may seem small at first, almost too simple to make a difference. But when sand is slightly wet, it behaves differently. The grains begin to hold together, forming a firmer surface, less likely to shift beneath the weight. Instead of collapsing under pressure, The sand becomes supportive, stable, and as a result, the sled moves more easily. Not effortlessly, but more smoothly. Less sinking, less resistance. This idea is not just theoretical. In modern experiments, researchers have recreated this process by pulling heavy objects across dry sand and then across sand that has been carefully moistened. And what they found was something quietly remarkable. With the right amount of water, the force required to pull the object can be reduced significantly. Not by half, not by magic, but enough to matter, enough to turn something nearly impossible into something achievable. And so, you can imagine the scene again. Workers ahead of the sled, pouring water onto the sand. Not too much, not too little, just enough to prepare the path. Behind them, the team pulling the ropes, moving in rhythm. Step and pull, step and pull. The sound is not loud. No engines, no sudden bursts of energy. Just breath, movement, and repetition. Over time, the sled advances, meter by meter. Not rushed, not forced, just guided. And perhaps this is where the understanding begins to settle. Because when we think of moving something heavy, we often imagine strength, force, power. But here, the solution is different. It is not about overpowering the weight, but working with the surface beneath it, adjusting conditions, reducing resistance, letting small changes create meaningful results. This is physics in its most quiet form, not equations written on a board, but principles observed and applied through experience. You begin to realize that the builders did not need to fully explain what they were doing in modern terms. They did not need formulas or precise measurements. They only needed to notice, to observe that wet sand behaves differently than dry sand, to feel that the sled moves more easily when the ground is prepared, and then to repeat it, again and again and again, until the method becomes part of the process. You look back at the pyramid once more, and the image shifts slightly, no longer just a structure of stone, but a record of movement, of thousands of journeys, each one beginning with a single step forward, a single pull, a single shift. And as the rhythm of that movement begins to echo softly in your mind, something about it feels almost calming, predictable, steady, like waves moving toward a shore, or wind passing across the desert. Nothing sudden, nothing chaotic, just a quiet progression towards something greater. And now, as this part of the journey becomes clearer, another question begins to emerge, because moving the stones across the ground is only part of the story. The pyramid does not spread outward, it rises, which means, at some point, these stones had to go up. You stand still for a moment, letting the rhythm of movement settle. Across the sand, the journey begins to make sense. But then, your gaze lifts again, upward, because the pyramid does not remain on the ground. It rises, layer by layer, stone upon stone, until it reaches toward the sky. And so a new question appears, quiet but persistent. How do you lift something so heavy? Without machines? How do you guide tons of stone? Not just forward, but upward? There is no single answer. Even now, thousands of years later, we are not entirely certain. But there are ideas, careful theories built from observation, fragments, and traces left behind. And among them, one idea returns again and again. The ramp. Simple, in concept. A path that allows something heavy to move gradually upward without needing to be lifted all at once. You can imagine it forming beside the pyramid, a long, sloping structure made of packed earth, stone, and debris, wide enough for a sled, stable enough to carry weight. At first, it would have been low, almost unnoticeable, but as the pyramid grew, the ramp would grow with it, extending outward, stretching farther into the desert, so that the slope remained gentle enough to climb. This is what is often called a straight ramp. Direct, linear, a single path leading upward. It makes sense in its simplicity, but as you picture it more clearly, something begins to feel uncertain, because for the pyramid to reach its full height, this ramp would have needed to become incredibly long, longer, perhaps, than the pyramid itself. And that raises quiet questions. Where would all that material come from? How would it be maintained? Why has so little evidence of such a massive ramp remained? So the mind turns gently toward another possibility. What if, instead of extending outward, the ramp wrapped around? A spiral ramp. You can imagine it now, circling the pyramid, slowly rising along its outer edges, like a path winding up a quiet hill, workers guiding the stones, turn by turn, each loop bringing them slightly higher. This idea reduces the need for a long, extended ramp. It keeps the movement close to the structure itself, but it also introduces complexity, tight turns, limited space, the challenge of maintaining balance, as heavy stones are guided around corners. And so, the question remains open. And then, there is another idea, one that feels even more subtle, an internal ramp, hidden within the pyramid itself, not visible from the outside, but built into the structure as it rises. In this version, the stones are guided upward through a series of internal pathways, protected from the outside, gradually ascending within the body of the pyramid. This idea is harder to imagine because it leaves fewer visible traces, but some researchers believe there are hints, small clues within the structure that suggest something like this may have existed. And yet, no single theory answers everything. Each one explains part of the story, but not all of it. And perhaps that is part of what makes this so quietly fascinating, because instead of a single, clear solution, we are left with possibilities, paths, rather than conclusions. You return your attention to the image forming in your mind, a ramp, whatever its shape, stretching gently upward, workers pulling a sled, step and pull, step and pull, the same rhythm as before, but now, with gravity quietly present, the effort would be greater, the movement slower, but not impossible, not when approached with patience, not when guided with care. You can almost feel it now, the tension in the rope, the weight pressing downward, the slow, deliberate steps taken in unison. No rushing, no sudden lifts, just a gradual ascent, stone, rising, one level at a time. And perhaps this is the key, not lifting in the way we imagine today, not raising something instantly with force, but allowing it to climb, guiding it upward, through distance rather than height. And as this idea settles, the pyramid begins to feel different once again, not as something that was lifted into place, but as something that was slowly, carefully, built upward through pathways we can still only partially see. And in that uncertainty, there is something almost peaceful, a reminder that not every question needs a final answer, that sometimes understanding comes not from certainty, but from quietly exploring what could have been. And as your thoughts begin to soften again, another layer of the story begins to emerge, because behind every stone, every movement, every careful step upward, there were people. For a moment, let the stones fade into the background. Let the structure itself grow quiet, because behind every block, every movement, every careful step upward, there were people, not invisible forces, not something distant or abstract, but human hands, human voices, human lives, moving slowly within the rhythm of the work. It is easy in the modern imagination to picture something else, to imagine endless lines of suffering, people forced into labor without choice, driven only by command. But the evidence we have today tells a different story. The builders of the pyramids were not slaves. They were workers, skilled, organized, part of a system that functioned with structure and intention. Archaeologists have uncovered traces of their lives just beyond the pyramids themselves, remains of what can only be described as a worker's village. Simple but purposeful. There were places to sleep, areas to prepare food, evidence of community, not a temporary camp, but something more stable, more human. And within this quiet village, a rhythm would have existed, a daily pattern repeated over time. You can begin to imagine it. The first light of morning, spreading slowly across the desert, the air still cool before the heat of the day begins to rise. Workers waking, not in urgency, but in familiarity. The same routines, the same paths. Food prepared simply, shared. Energy gathered, not in haste, but in readiness. And then, movement toward the site. Not chaotic, not rushed, but steady. Groups assigned to different roles. Some cutting stone, some preparing sleds, some guiding movement, some aligning placement. Each person part of a larger pattern, where no single action stands alone. You can almost hear it now. Not loud commands, but communication, voices coordinating, adjusting, guiding, a quiet cooperation. And as the day continues, the rhythm settles in, pull and step, lift and align, pause, then again. There is effort, of course. The work is physical, demanding, but it is also structured, organized in a way that allows it to continue day after day without collapse. Because this was not work meant to be finished quickly. It was work meant to endure. And so, the people behind it had to endure as well. There is evidence that these workers were fed well. Bread, beer, basic, but sustaining, enough to maintain strength, enough to support continuity, and perhaps most quietly important, there is evidence of care. Skeletal remains show signs of injuries, but also healing, meaning that those who were hurt were not simply replaced, they were treated, allowed to recover, and then to return, which tells us something subtle but meaningful. These were not disposable lives. They were part of something ongoing, valued not only for their labor, but for their role within the system itself. And then there is the idea of rotation. Not every worker was there all the time. Many likely came in cycles, working for a period, then returning home, replaced by others, a shifting presence, like tides moving in and out, while the work itself continued, uninterrupted. This allowed the project to persist across years without exhausting those who carried it forward. And so, when you look at the pyramid now, you begin to see something else within it, not just stone, but traces of routine, of repetition shared across many lives, of days that began quietly and ended the same way, with small progress made again and again. There is no single moment that defines its creation, no sudden breakthrough, only a long sequence of ordinary days linked together until they become extraordinary. And perhaps that is where the calm begins to settle, because the pyramid is not just a monument to scale, or precision, or engineering. It is also a reflection of human consistency, of the ability to return, to continue, to take one more step, even when the full shape of the outcome is still far away. You can almost feel it now, the quiet presence of those who stood here long ago, not rushing, not seeking recognition, just working within the rhythm of something larger than themselves. And as the image softens, as the voices fade back into the silence of the night, another layer begins to reveal itself. Because even with all of this, the people, the movement, the structure, there is still something that feels almost impossible, the precision. For a moment, let everything become still again. The movement fades, the voices soften, the rhythm of work settles into silence, and what remains is alignment. You stand once more at the base of the pyramid, but this time you are not looking at its size or its height. You are noticing something quieter, something more subtle, the way it is placed. If you could rise above it, just for a moment, and look down from the sky, you would see that each side of the pyramid is almost perfectly aligned, with the 4 cardinal directions: north, south, east, west. Not approximately, not loosely, but with a level of accuracy that feels almost impossible for its time. The northern side, in particular, points so precisely toward true north that even modern measurements reveal only the smallest margin of error, and you pause with that thought, because this was done without compasses, without satellite positioning, without digital tools, only observation, only patience. You imagine standing here thousands of years ago, with nothing but the sky above and the earth below. How would you find north? Not guess it, but find it with intention. One way is through the stars. If you watch the night sky carefully, you begin to notice that the stars do not remain still. They move, slowly, almost imperceptibly, but always in a consistent pattern. And around a certain point, they seem to circle, a fixed place in the sky that does not shift like the others. This is the celestial north. By observing this motion, night after night, you can begin to trace a direction. Not quickly, but accurately. You can mark it on the ground, refine it, return to it again and again, until it becomes reliable. And then you can build from it. But the stars are only part of the story. There is also the sun. During the day, the movement of shadows becomes a guide. A simple vertical object, a stick, placed firmly into the ground, can cast a shadow that shifts over time. If you trace that shadow carefully, marking its position, watching how it moves. You begin to notice patterns. At certain moments, the shadow reaches a point of balance. A line can be drawn, a direction can be established, not instantly, but through observation, through repetition. And then there are tools, not complex, not mechanical, but effective. A length of rope stretched between 2 points, used not only to measure distance, but to define straightness, to create lines that do not drift, to maintain consistency across space. You can imagine workers holding that rope, pulling it tight, checking alignment, adjusting slowly. No rushing, just careful placement. And then there is the ground itself, because before anything could rise, the foundation had to be prepared, leveled, flattened, across a space larger than most modern buildings. And yet, measurements today show that the base of the pyramid is remarkably even, with only slight variations across hundreds of meters. How was this done? One idea suggests the use of water. If you create shallow channels and allow water to fill them, the surface of that water naturally becomes level. It does not tilt. It does not favor one side. It settles into balance. And by observing that surface, you can begin to understand the shape of the ground, where it is too high, where it must be lowered, again and again, until the earth itself becomes ready. What begins to emerge, slowly, is a different kind of understanding. Because when we think of precision today, we often think of advanced tools, laser measurements, digital systems, instant calculations. But here, precision comes from something else. Time, observation, correction, a willingness to check and recheck until the result feels right, until it aligns. And perhaps that is what feels most remarkable. Not that the pyramid is precise, but how that precision was achieved. Not through speed, not through complexity, but through attention, a quiet focus, sustained over long periods, until small adjustments accumulate into something exact. You look again at the edges of the pyramid. The lines feel steady, grounded, certain, and even now, after thousands of years, that certainty remains, unmoved, unchanged. And as you let this settle, as the idea of quiet precision begins to feel less like a mystery and more like a process, your attention begins to drift upward once more, toward the sky. Because for those who built this, alignment was not only about the earth, it was also about something beyond it. You lift your gaze once more, away from the stone, away from the ground, and into the sky. It is the same sky that stretches above you now, deep, quiet, filled with distant light. But thousands of years ago, this sky was not only something to look at, it was something to understand, to follow, to trust. Because for the ancient Egyptians, the heavens were not separate from the earth. They were connected, and the pyramid may have been built as a bridge between the two. If you remain still for a moment, letting your eyes adjust to the darkness, you begin to notice patterns, stars grouped together, forming shapes that repeat themselves night after night. Among them, there is one that stands out, a formation of 3 bright stars, arranged in a line, softly glowing, evenly spaced. This is part of what we now call Orion's belt, and some researchers have suggested that the layout of the pyramids at Giza bears a resemblance to this pattern. Not identical, not exact, but similar enough to invite a quiet kind of curiosity. 3 pyramids, positioned in a way that echoes those 3 stars, a reflection, perhaps, of something seen above. This idea is often called the Orion correlation theory, and, like many ideas connected to the pyramids, it is still discussed, still explored, not fully confirmed, but not easily dismissed. But whether or not the alignment is exact, the connection between the sky and the pyramid goes deeper than shape alone, because in ancient Egyptian belief, the stars were not just lights in the distance, they were destinations, places where the soul could travel. After leaving the body, the pharaoh, in particular, was believed to ascend to the heavens, to join the gods, to become part of the eternal sky. And the pyramid was not simply a tomb, it was a pathway, a structure designed not only to protect the body, but to guide the spirit. If you imagine standing here, long ago, watching the night sky unfold above you, you might begin to see it differently, not as empty space, but as a map, a quiet guide, showing direction, purpose, continuity. The alignment of the pyramid toward true north may not have been only practical, it may have been symbolic, a way of orienting the structure toward the fixed point in the sky, a place that does not move, a place that represents permanence. And within the pyramid itself, there are narrow shafts, extending from the inner chambers, angled carefully upward. Some of these shafts point toward regions of the sky, where important stars once appeared. It is subtle, not obvious, but intentional, a quiet gesture, linking what is inside to what lies above. You can almost feel it now, the stillness of the chamber contrasted with the vastness of the sky, stone and stars, weight and distance, connected not by force, but by meaning. And perhaps this is where the pyramid becomes something more, not just a structure of engineering, but a reflection of belief, a way of shaping the physical world, to mirror something unseen, to give form to an idea that life does not end, but continues, that there is a journey beyond what we can touch, and that even something as grounded as stone can be part of that journey. You let your eyes rest on the stars a little longer. They flicker softly, unchanged by time, just as they were when the pyramid was first completed. And in that quiet, there is a sense of continuity, that the same sky has always been there, watching, guiding, enduring. And as your attention gently returns back down from the vastness above to the solid presence of the pyramid, another thought begins to form. Because while the sky may have guided their vision and belief may have shaped their purpose, everything still came down to something simpler: stone, cut, shaped, prepared by hand. You let your gaze settle once more, back onto the surface of the stone, solid, still, unyielding. It is easy to admire the pyramid as a whole, to take in its shape, its scale, its quiet presence. But everything you see here begins at a much smaller level, a single block, cut, shaped, prepared, before it was ever placed. And so the question becomes softer now, more focused. How do you shape stone when your tools are simple? No steel blades, no power saws, no machines to grind or polish or refine. Only what the ancient builders had. And what they had was enough. At first, the idea may seem unlikely. Copper is not a particularly hard metal, It bends. It wears down. Compared to stone, especially granite, it feels almost fragile. And yet, copper tools were widely used. Chisels, saws, simple cutting implements shaped by hand. But the process was not about force. It was not about cutting quickly or slicing through stone in a single motion. It was about repetition. You can imagine it now. A worker kneeling beside a block of limestone, holding a copper chisel, positioning it carefully against the surface. A pause, and then a strike. A small impact, not dramatic, not loud, just enough to remove a fragment. Then again, strike and pause, strike and pause. Over time, the surface begins to change. Edges form, lines appear. The shape slowly reveals itself, not all at once, but gradually. This is not a process measured in seconds, or even minutes. It unfolds over hours, days, perhaps longer, and through that repetition, something precise begins to emerge. Not because the tool is powerful, but because the action is consistent, because each strike is guided, adjusted, refined. And then there is another element, something even more subtle: sand, not as a surface, but as an abrasive. When copper tools are combined with sand, the effect changes. The sand, made of tiny, hard particles, acts as a cutting agent between the tool and the stone. You can imagine a saw, simple in design, moving back and forth across the surface, not cutting in the way we might expect, but grinding slowly through friction, the sand doing the work, while the tool provides direction, again and again, until the stone yields. This is not speed. This is patience, a willingness to let time become part of the tool. And then there is granite, harder, denser, more resistant, the kind of stone that does not respond easily to copper alone. And so a different method appears: dolerite, a dark, heavy stone, even harder than granite, used not to cut, but to pound. You can picture it, a rounded stone held firmly in hand, lifted and brought down against the surface. Impact, a dull, steady sound. Again, and again, and again. Each strike removes only a small amount, a fragment, a chip, barely noticeable at first, but over time, the surface begins to give, not through slicing, but through persistence, through repeated contact, until the shape begins to change. It is a process that requires strength, but also control, because the goal is not to shatter the stone, but to shape it, to guide it, slowly, toward the form that is needed. And as you imagine this, the rhythm becomes almost meditative. Lift and strike, pause, lift and strike, pause, a pattern that repeats, without urgency, without variation, until the work itself becomes a kind of quiet focus. You begin to realize something here. The tools may be simple, but the process is not careless. It is deliberate, measured, each action informed by what came before, each adjustment based on observation. If a surface is uneven, it is corrected. If an edge is too sharp, it is softened. Again and again, until the stone fits. And that word, fit, becomes important, because the stones of the pyramid do not simply rest on one another, They align closely, carefully, in some cases with such precision that even today it is difficult to insert a blade between them. And yet, this was achieved without machines, without modern measurement tools, only through repeated checking, placing, adjusting, refining. You can imagine workers testing the fit, lowering a stone gently into position, observing the contact points, lifting it again, shaping the surface slightly, then trying once more, not rushing, not forcing the result, just allowing the process to guide the outcome. And slowly, over time, the stones begin to sit together, as if they were always meant to be that way. There is no single moment when the shape is complete, only a gradual movement toward alignment. And perhaps this is where the quiet beauty of the process reveals itself. Because when we think of advanced construction, we often imagine complexity, machines, precision tools, automated systems. But here, the sophistication lies in something else, in the ability to observe, to repeat, to refine, to trust that small actions, performed consistently, will eventually lead to something exact. You let your hand rest in your imagination, against the surface of the stone once more. It feels solid, complete, unchanging. But now you can sense what lies beneath that stillness. Not just material, but effort. Not just form, but process. A record of countless small movements, layered over time, until they become invisible. And perhaps that is why it feels so seamless, because the process itself has disappeared into the result, leaving only the final shape to speak quietly on its own. You take a slow breath, and as the image settles, as the rhythm of shaping, cutting, and refining begins to fade into stillness, another thought begins to emerge. Because even with simple tools, even with patience, even with time, there is still something more that made all of this possible. Something not held in the hand, but carried through the years, time itself. For a moment, let everything become quiet again. The tools fade, the movement softens, the sound of stone against stone disappears into stillness. And what remains is something we often overlook. Time, not as something passing quickly, but as something present, something used. Because when we look at the pyramid, we often search for the tools, the methods, the techniques. But there is another element, less visible, and yet more powerful than any tool: time itself. You stand once more beside the pyramid, and instead of asking how it was built, you begin to ask something gentler. How long did it take? Not in a rushed sense, not as a measure of efficiency, but as a way of understanding the rhythm of its creation. The Great Pyramid is believed to have been built over the course of decades, perhaps 20 years, perhaps a little more. And when you first hear that, it may not feel extraordinary. In the modern world, we measure projects in timelines, months, years, deadlines to meet, schedules to follow. But here, time did not function in the same way. It was not something to race against. It was something to move within. You can imagine it now, a single day of work, the sun rising slowly over the desert, light spreading across the sand, touching the stones one by one, workers arriving, not in urgency, but in familiarity. The same actions as the day before, the same process, A stone moved, a surface shaped, a block aligned. At the end of the day, progress has been made, but only a small amount, barely noticeable when compared to the whole. And then, the next day, the same again, and again, and again, until days become weeks, weeks become months, months become years, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, the structure begins to rise, not in leaps, not in sudden bursts, but in increments so small that they almost disappear into the passage of time, and yet they accumulate. That is the quiet power of time. It allows small actions to become something vast, without requiring force, without demanding speed, only consistency. You begin to realize that time was not a limitation. It was the method. It was the space within which everything else could happen. Without time, the tools would not matter. The movement would not matter. The effort would not be enough. But with time, everything becomes possible. Even something as large, as something as precise, as something as enduring as the pyramid. You take a slow breath and let that idea settle. Because in the modern world, we often move differently. We measure success by how quickly something is done. We compress processes. We accelerate timelines. We look for ways to build faster, to finish sooner, to reach the result as efficiently as possible. And in doing so, we sometimes forget what time makes possible. The pyramid does not feel rushed. It does not feel hurried. There is no sense of urgency in its presence. Only stability. Only patience made visible. And perhaps that is why it feels so calming to stand beside it. Because it reflects something we rarely experience. A process allowed to unfold fully, without interruption, without pressure, without the need to be complete before it is ready. You can imagine the builders, not thinking about the finished pyramid as a whole, but focusing only on what is in front of them. One stone, one movement, one adjustment, trusting that if they continue, if they return each day, if they maintain the rhythm, the result will take shape, not instantly, but inevitably. And perhaps that is the deeper understanding, that time is not just something we pass through. It is something that shapes what we create. It allows for correction, for refinement, for learning. It gives space for precision to emerge without being forced. And when you remove the pressure of speed, something changes. The work becomes quieter, more intentional, more aligned. You look again at the pyramid, and now it feels different. Not just a structure of stone, but a structure of time, layered slowly, over years that no longer feel distant, but present within it. Each block placed, not as part of a rush, but as part of a rhythm, a steady unfolding, guided by patience. And as you allow this idea to settle, something within you begins to slow as well. Your thoughts, your breathing, your sense of time itself. Because in this moment, there is no urgency, no deadline, only the quiet presence of something that took as long as it needed and still stands, unchanged, unmoved, a reminder that not everything meaningful is meant to happen quickly. And as this calm begins to deepen, as the rhythm of time itself becomes something you can almost feel, another thought begins to form. Because even with all that we have explored, the movement, the tools, the people, the time, there is still something that remains, something we do not fully understand. Now, let everything soften. The movement has slowed. The tools have fallen quiet. The rhythm of time has settled into stillness. And what remains is something gentle, uncertainty, not the kind that feels restless, not the kind that demands answers, but the kind that simply exists. Because even after everything we've explored, the stones, the movement, the people, the patience, there are still questions, quiet ones, lingering at the edges, like the wind that moves across the desert at night. We do not know exactly how every stone was placed. We do not know precisely which ramp design was used, or if there was only one. We do not know every detail of the process, or every decision that was made along the way, and perhaps we never will. But this is not a failure. It is not something broken or incomplete. It is something else, a reminder that understanding does not always arrive all at once. That knowledge, like the pyramid itself, is built gradually, piece by piece. Over time, you can imagine the generations of people who have stood where you are now, looking up at the same structure, asking the same questions. Ancient travelers, scholars, engineers, dreamers, each one bringing their own perspective, their own ideas, their own quiet attempts to understand. And over time, those ideas have formed patterns, theories, some supported by evidence, some shaped by imagination, all part of a larger effort to move closer to something true. But not everything can be confirmed. Not everything can be measured or reconstructed or explained. And that is where the calm begins to deepen, because instead of forcing an answer, we are allowed to sit with the mystery, to observe it, without needing to resolve it. There is something peaceful in that. The pyramid does not demand explanation. It does not change based on what we know or do not know. It simply remains. And in that stillness, it invites us to look, to wonder, to think, not quickly, not urgently, but slowly, the way the builders themselves may have worked. You begin to notice that uncertainty does not take anything away from the structure. If anything, it adds to it. It gives it depth, a quiet space where imagination and understanding meet. And science, in this context, is not about removing that space. It is about exploring it, gently, carefully, with curiosity rather than certainty. Each new discovery, each new measurement, each new idea is not the end of the story. It is simply another stone placed into the growing structure of knowledge. And just like the pyramid, that structure is never built all at once. It takes time. It evolves. It remains open. You take a slow breath and allow that idea to settle, that not knowing everything is not a weakness. It is part of the process, a natural space where learning continues. And perhaps there is something quietly comforting in that, because it means there is no need to rush toward an answer, no need to resolve every question. Before you can rest, the pyramid stands, whether we understand it fully or not. And so can we. You let your gaze rest on the stones one last time, their edges softened by distance, their presence steady, unchanged by centuries of observation. And as your thoughts begin to quiet, as the need to understand gives way to simply being, the story begins to close, not with a final answer, but with something softer, a reflection. Now, let everything return to stillness. The questions soften, the movement fades, the ideas drift gently into the background, and once again, you find yourself standing in the desert. Night has fully arrived. The air is calm, cool against the skin, carrying only the faintest whisper of wind across the sand. Above you, the sky stretches endlessly, dark and filled with quiet light. The same stars, watching, as they always have, and before you, the pyramid remains, unchanged, silent, its edges softened by shadow, its surface resting beneath the glow of distant constellations. It does not move. It does not ask to be understood. It simply stands, a presence shaped by time, held together by patience, and carried across centuries without effort. There is no urgency here, no need to solve, no need to explain, only space, only stillness. You can let your thoughts slow now, like the wind moving gently across the desert, never in a hurry, never needing to arrive. The questions you carried can rest. The answers can wait, because not everything needs to be finished tonight. Some things are meant to remain softly open, like the horizon, stretching quietly into the distance. You take a slow breath, and as you exhale, the weight of the day begins to fade. Your mind no longer reaching, no longer searching, just drifting, like sand, settling, grain by grain, into a place of calm. The pyramid remains, steady, grounded, patient, a quiet reminder that even the greatest things are built slowly and can simply exist. So now you can rest. Let your body grow heavy, supported, just as each stone is supported by the one beneath it. Let your thoughts become lighter, like the air above the desert, open and at ease. And as sleep begins to gently find you, know that you can return here anytime, to this place of quiet wonder and slow understanding. For now, close your eyes and drift. And as you rest tonight, somewhere beneath the same sky, the stones remain, patient, silent, and still waiting to be understood. Good night, sleep well, and from here, let the soft ambient music carry you gently into deeper rest, as the desert and the stars keep their quiet watch